Hello and welcome to the Knock On KCLR and Scoreline.ie's weekly rugby podcast. We're back after Christmas and the full house. Thankfully here as well, James Blanchfield from Kilkenny, Tom Crotty from Carlow, Johnny Tobin from Tullow. Lads, how's it going?
Not too bad. Happy New Year, lads.
Happy New Year to you all. And well, we haven't spoken the last fortnight. Obviously we're all on our holidays and everything else as well. But Gianni Mac, there's so much to talk about. Like we were, we were waiting. There's me to have a cough now. Excuse me. We were given out with no matches, and then we were treated to Munster versus Connacht there the other night. I nearly switched it off after 20 minutes. It was like going, Cheney Mac, you're waiting for a rugby match, and then that happens. Come here, listen, we'll talk about all that in a minute, but it's Thursday night now, and James, you're just after getting notification that all the Leinster League matches are off this weekend.
Yeah, just got notification. I rang Dave O'Connor there half an hour ago just to see did he have any news or any team updates that I could talk about the podcast, and he said, I'll send you a text message in a minute. And in the text message came a statement from the Leinster branch of the Fixtures Committee to say that though most teams wanted to play this weekend, there was very few clubs that weren't affected by COVID, and therefore the branch have made a call, or the Fixtures Committee have made a call to postpone all of this week's men's adult rugby. Looks like youth fixtures can still proceed as planned, but it looks like that it's postponed. I think there's going to be a call made tomorrow in the subsequent meeting to agree how long the postponement is going to continue for. Wow. But I know we have a very disappointed cohort of players now who are looking really forward to this weekend. But look, I suppose it's the situation we find ourselves in at the moment. There's nothing we can do about it, unfortunately.
Yeah, and you've been hit hard, especially in Kilkenny, James, with matches being called off, COVID and everything, and the run up to Christmas and all that as well. So it's another kick in the stones.
Yeah, we had 2 games called off. Then I suppose over Christmas another few lads got it, but it's not ideal. And we were supposed to play Bective and Ashbourne over Christmas, and those games haven't gone ahead, so we've agreed to share the points in those. But it probably suits us now at the moment as well. But we'll just see. Hopefully this damn thing can run its course. Everyone can get it. It can run its course, and we can get back to normal living over the next 4 or 5 weeks.
Yeah, isn't it a good thing that they don't treat it like the Champions Cup and they just award the other team the 28 points, even though you might have a few lads to play a match? Anyway, we'll talk about that later on.
We could do with a few of them.
No, it's actually the same in youth rugby. In youth rugby, if a team pulls out due to COVID, the other opposition team gets the points.
Really? The bonus point.
We agreed no bonus points. But that we agreed after the start of the season, so it's just a handy way. Well, it's unfortunate for some, but I think the way things are going, it's going to have to come into play.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we were due to have a full round of Leinster League matches. Kilkenny, Dundalk, Byrne and Tullow, Carlow, Clondalkin, and the Tullow women were meant to be starting their Paul Flood Cup as well. Kilkenny's women were penciled in for a friendly against Hugh Ross. Looks like everything is gone, lads. So the local stuff is scrapped again. Sure, what do you do? Keep training, keep numbers coming in, but like obviously they're all affected by COVID as well and close contacts and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, it's very bad at the moment, I think.
It's a real sickening.
You get a handle on it. Like to be honest, you'd have to admit that you kind of seen this coming, that the games are going to be called off this weekend. I never really thought there was going to be any senior rugby this week.
Mm-hmm.
Good thing is there's lots of youth rugby going on. We've 4 youth teams on the go this week, so I get rugby on Saturday anyway.
Yeah,
come on, Johnny.
Yeah, and speaking of youth rugby, Mr. Tobin there gave a display of refereeing a youth Southeast final up there in Tullow there 3 weeks ago. Hats off to you, Johnny.
Yeah, there was a few lads on the sideline, which was rather strange.
There was a few coaches on the sideline, and they started kind of refereing the game. And in fairness, the carpet was swept out from under them straight away. They were like mice after Tobin.
I got a phone call at 9:30 on a Friday night. I was in the bar in Kilkenny, and I said, I may go home. I had to go. And Robin Johnson puts me on the AstroTurf of all places, but you. And young lads who want to play ball, and you're running around chasing these fellas, and you're saying, I shouldn't have answered that phone call last night.
Well done, Johnny.
Look
You
at you
did
doing
very well in fairness.
What up with you? A bit of crack.
I tell you, some cracking youth games. I was ended up looking after the Southeast, the under 13s in Carlow, and the cup final. Tullow won the plate. Had a really good game against New Ross. They were just that bit stronger in the first half. New Ross came back in the second half and fought all the way to the end. It was a good game. Then went on. We had the cup after between Kilkenny and Wexford. Jesus, lads, where you got the centre? The centre. His father's Argentinian.
Yeah, Freddie's young lad.
He is ridiculous. He's some sprint champion under 12s, 13s.
His mother was Emily Marr.
14s, 13s and 12s or something like that. Well, he took off on 3 runs, and it wasn't in the case of give the ball to the big fella. That wasn't. He just took the ball. If he was given the space, good luck. I have never seen a young fella, to be honest, at that age with the pace that he has. Our senior wingers wouldn't have kept up with him. He was Jesus. He just opened his legs. He's really tall.
When you talk about pedigree, that fella has sporting pedigree coming out of his ears. His mother was Emily Marr, the Olympian, the track and the runner.
Yeah.
And his father, Freddie Qualaga, is Argentinian. He came to Ireland to play for Gary Owen, and he was on the Gary Owen team that did the treble back in the mid-2000s. He was in the centre. I think they won they won the All Ireland Cup, they won the league, they won the Munster Senior Cup.
That's right, yeah.
On the same year. Freddie was centre on that team. He's best friends with Freddie Pucciarello, who the Argentinian or the Italian prop, isn't it, that won the Heineken Cup with Munster.
That's right.
And Pucciarello was actually associated Gary Owen at the time. Gary Owen needed a centre. They asked Freddie for Pucciarello, did he know anybody? Picked up the phone and rang Freddie Qualaga. Freddie came over, and I suppose the rest is history. Married a woman from Kilkenny and is involved with us now. He won, I think Freddie himself with us when he arrived in Kilkenny late, but he won a couple of Dun Cups with us. Fine player. Even now he's all like I think about 42 or 43. You can still see him. He's always itching to get out on the pitch. And if there's anyone, if the seconds or thirds ever need someone to tug out, Freddie is the first to put his hand up. Brilliant player, absolutely brilliant player. And I've heard about his young fella as well. So
yeah, well, I mean, there was a lot of good young fellas on the pitch on both sides, and the teams were, would have been so close, but he was just the absolute. And it wasn't that case, Sometimes I think when you hit kind of under 12, kind of 12s up into 13s, you have a couple of big lads and you throw them the ball near the line and they burrow their way. Nobody stops them. But this lad was running from the 22. He's on 22, and just pop him in space. If he got space at all, good luck. So I think you have a little gem coming down the line with him.
Yeah, hope so. They're living in Thomastown.
Well, unless the athletics take him.
That's it, yeah. Thomastown hurlers can get their hands on him.
Seemingly he's flying at that too. Anyway, which was
but I suppose it's the age-old thing. Like an ounce of breeding is better than a pound of feeding, isn't it?
Yeah, and there were 2 good 18 Southeast finals too. Tullow, I have to say, Tullow did really well in the youth across the board. I think they won 3 out of the 3 plates they were in. Yeah,
we won the 13s, 14s, and 15s.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah. We got to the Southeast under 18.5 cup final. I
tell you, you were unlucky. That was a fantastic game. See, I couldn't get it. I run the competition and it was absolutely feckin' raging. I had to isolate, and because we'd worked so hard all year to try and get those, especially the 18th final out. It was just so hard. And Arklow, in fairness to them, we played Arklow in Tullow on I think it was a Saturday on New Year's Day.
Yeah, I was over at that one. Yeah, it was good.
And in fairness, Arklow the night before were nearly pulling the plug, and they would have had to concede it. And their youth coordinator went off and got talking to the parents, and the parents themselves agreed they wanted to play it, even though I think they had 5 cases of COVID, and one of the coaches or 2 of the coaches were out. But in fairness to them, they came down, and I'd say, like, I know our own 18s had a great game. but in fairness, I was told that Carlow played really, really well, and probably would have been a hell of a lot closer if they had a couple of players that they were missing. But the 18th final in Carlow, well, all you have to do is see the state of the pitch. I was out in
I walked across it. My runners, Tom, was the biggest mistake of my life.
I went out and I looked, and you could just see where there was an awful lot of scrums on the 5 metre line on both corners, on the 4 corners of the field, especially down in the left-hand corner. So a sign of a good game, and I just unfortunate, because I was told afterwards, just unfortunate Wicklow got to try in the last seconds of the game to win it. But it's great to see great rugby out there.
Ourselves, like we
it was actually a cracker of a game, that one, Tom.
Yeah.
We was in that, and I was standing there, I just came across and I stood in the corner down near the hurling club, and Noah Sheridan from Wicklow scored a try, I think it was 65, 70 seconds. He just ran the length of the field off the drop off, beat 5 or 6 fellas and underneath the sticks. And I said to myself, "Jeez, I might get back into the van now and go home." And I just changed all of the slap, and the lads just turned it on. I said to them after, I just seen a few of them after, it was great for us to have a team in the 18.5 cup final, because outside of Ivan Cooper's team a couple of years ago, we haven't been competing at that age group for a long, long time.
Yeah.
So, that's top level. Like, no disrespect to the plate, we're in the cup final there. Like, we're competing at the top. Like,
yeah,
some really good fellas there. Sean's been working with them there. He's home. He was working with them there Tuesday, and he's with them again tonight. He was at the final there on Sunday as well.
Oh, that's great.
Good bunch of fellas.
Yeah.
Great team of first time.
From our point of view, we kind of with the Southeast, we were delighted to get the 3 finals, but we were a little bit disappointed then only to take one of them home with that under 13 ones. You mentioned there, Tom, the case to give the ball to the big fella. I think that was one of the reasons we lost the under 14 final to Carlow. I think Carlow had a bit of a monster playing for him, and it was a case of I think we were 15 or 16 nil up, and next thing you just started giving the ball to this guy, and he was unstoppable.
Yeah, that's Jason Emery's son.
Is that who it is? Apparently that's
incredible young player.
Yeah, apparently now speaking to Barry Daly and Mick McGrath, that's what they were saying it was.
And he's playing up a year.
Is he?
Yeah, he's playing up a year, yeah.
Wow. And then the under 16s were the team that we were expecting a lot from, but for whatever reason they were missing they were missing the 2 of their main players, 2 or 3 of their main players.
There's a couple of lads missing, and I just know from working with them in the Southeast, the 3 lads in wrong position, not wrong position, but I suppose they try to play in the positions to help the team. But like I always say to the lads, play the lads in their position where they're best. Don't change it because other lads are missing. And it might have worked, They had young Daniel there playing in the centre, and he's an incredible 9. And then they had Jamie playing at 12, and he's an incredible 8. And just look at, they made a decision to try to get the win, and
they did. And in fairness,
they played some nice rugby.
In fairness for that team, they'll be disappointed to lose, and I know those young fellas are hurting, having not won it, but they were missing the 2 or 3 lads. But the other side of it is they'll learn a lot more in defeat than they will in victory. They'll learn from that, and they'll come on. And they're doing well in the league, so hopefully they can kick on, because as a club we have big plans for the current under 18, 16s. Youth rugby is going well for us, so
One good thing I'd say about that 16th team is they've more coaches than JJ Cavanagh's.
You see, there's a reason.
They must have
for
a coaching team of 10 people.
Yeah,
that's great.
That's because
that's brilliant.
Yeah, and that's because the 15s and the 16s are together.
Yeah.
So they have
I walked out
an A
first
and a
to
B team.
I met the manager, and then I met the coach, and then I met another coach, and then I met the medic, and then I met another coach, and then I met the head coach, and then I met another coach.
Yeah.
How many players have these fellas got?
Yeah, I think they have about 52 players in the under 15, 16 bracket, because the club made a decision to field only an under 16 team this year and not an under 15 team for the league. So
well, I tell you, that's going to stand them. Sometimes it can be a benefit to clubs like that, when you combine up, especially because if you actually looking at the way, if you look at the way it used to be with the All Ireland Cup set up, it's 16s and 18s are your 2 main tournaments. So I mean, you're going from 16s now. Forget 17s are finished. I can't see 17s happening again in the next couple of years, except for schools youth. So if you have your team there combined now, in 2 years' time, they'll be combining again, and they'll all know each other.
Yeah.
Like your 16s, your actual 16s this year, they'll move up to 18s next year, and they'll have a year of 18s. The boys who are playing 15s will be the 16s, but when they move up the following year, then you have that team back together again.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
You know, with all the experience and the heartache of, like, it can be a nice little learning curve there. Like, I mean, I know they lost the game.
All our 14s
that little bit of
train together at the moment.
What?
Our 15s and 16s train together, our 17s and 18s train together. And I said it to one of the lads last night, I really believe that the 15s training with the 16s really helped them win that Southeast, because they got that physical edge from hitting with the 16s for half a season.
Yeah.
It really does benefit them. Like it's a no-brainer, really. The more numbers of train, the more competitive it is, the easier it is for the coaches and everything, you know?
Yeah.
Without doubt.
Absolutely.
So, long may it last that they continue to work together.
Yeah. Well, I would encourage anyone now that there's no adult rugby on. I think all of the clubs should be encouraging supporters who want to go watch a game of rugby to go watch any home youth matches that are on now and get to know the next generation of players that are coming in their club.
Oh, yeah, for sure, yeah. Like I'm going to Portlaoise now this Saturday. There's our 15s and 16s are playing in Portlaoise. Jeez, I haven't been to Portlaoise, I'd say, easily. The last time I was in Portlaoise, I played a seconds game. I actually played 12 outside Pookie, and that's not today or yesterday, let me tell you. I think it was 2012 or something the last time I was in Portlaoise Rugby Club.
Wow.
So, bit of crack to go up and watch the 15s and 16s playing, and our 18s and 17s are playing as well. So starting their leagues this week, I think our 18s are.
We've
only playing Skerries at home, so that'll be a good game to go to. If anyone in Tullow is at a loose end on a Saturday.
Yeah, we've only one home game. We've only our 14s are playing Eden-Derry at home. That's the only.
Yeah, I think we've only one home game as well. I think 18s are the only home game we have.
Yeah, that's it. We only have one home game and just minis training. That's the total excitement in the club this weekend. So
give your pitch a bit of a break after Sunday.
We would have only had Clondalkin with our first team anyway. There's no second, so like would have only been 2 home games, but it would have been nice to have the seniors playing anyway.
That's it.
We'll dream on.
Absolutely. So great that there's youth rugby and everything going, lads, as well. Obviously, with just to remind people listening to the podcast, if they're only listening to it tonight, Thursday, all the Leinster League matches are off this weekend. COVID cases going rife, but it's had its effects on the professional side of stuff as well. We'll talk about that first, and then we'll go on to Munster and all the problems down there. But a heap of cancellations in the Champions Cup, the URC and everything as well. And the big bone of contention, I suppose, was Leinster getting a squad together, getting them ready to fly over to Montpellier, and European Champions Cup organisers just saying, "Nah, Montpellier get the win. Here's your bonus point, 28 points," and that's the end of that. Leinster obviously are going to take it a bit further, but a lot of teams in different boats when it comes to that as well. But it's a bit of an S show, the whole thing at this stage, isn't it?
It is. But did that not turn out to be the right decision? Because a lot of the players that Leinster had in the squad that were going to Montpellier ended up having it.
They had, there's nothing going to hold stead because their second game the following week was cancelled. They cancelled the second week. The next time. So, I mean, they haven't really a leg to stand on to go back to.
Yeah.
They'll say that the European thing made the right decision at that stage, you know.
Yeah, what the talk on the Thursday night before the Friday they were due to fly, and their match was Friday night, they were going to fly out the morning of the game, was that they had a squad that passed all their PCRs on the Thursday night, ready to fly on the Friday, and they had everyone was passed, ready to go. They had no extra cases then. No, it was, when was the match called off? The Thursday night. Yeah, it was straight after the podcast, actually. I think, James, you got notification during the podcast or just at the end of it, which would have been Thursday evening. So they had a squad that was all passed, ready to go, but the EPRC were saying, well, no, you've had too many cases across the last week or whatever like that, and it's not good enough. So there was a bit of a grey area there as well, but sure.
Am I right in saying it's now 11 weeks since Leinster played again?
Jason, it might be too far off that.
Yeah. It's before the autumn internationals, isn't it?
Connacht, they beat Connacht, wasn't it?
Was
And
it?
that was the last match they led to in the
Yeah.
You
RDS.
know, I mean, for Leinster, one side they're fresh, the other side they have no match practice.
Yeah.
You know, I think are they playing the Irish under 20s tomorrow?
Couldn't tell you.
In a friendly, I thought I saw something about that today.
Yeah, probably.
But, you know, I think Leinster are going to suffer without match practice.
All this momentum coming off the back of the autumn internationals and the Leinster lads getting run outs for Ireland and all this stuff is all gone. It's like starting all over again. I suppose a lot of teams are in the same boat, but something that really came to the fore over the Christmas in the last couple of weeks is Munster. Sent out the chaps for their Champions Cup game 1, which was great. Half of them were hit by COVID, obviously coming back from South Africa. But then the last 2 matches, particularly against Connacht at the weekend, everyone's calling for Van Graan's head. He has announced he's leaving. Should they kick him out now?
I think that'd be.
Well, I'm absolutely I'm living with it because it's not just. It wasn't. I think it wasn't just. You have. I use the words in a chat with ourselves here. There, I know it's a rudderless Munster. It is rudderless because you can't I don't understand how you can announce in the middle, near the starting quarter of the season that you're attack coach. I mean, that's a big loss for anyone because I know a lot of the lads like Stephen Larkham. And from a fan base, I'm presuming that we kind of had hope that Stephen might have taken over or had more of a call on it and changed the way they played. And it looked like at times maybe he was having a bit more influence. So he was gone. And then a couple of weeks later, then Van Graan decides he announces, and of all the teams like Bath, and that must be like a massive kick in. I don't care what squad. Like if you were to announce, that's why I mean we don't. If you announce at the start of the season and had a coach that was really doing well and said, "Look, this has probably been my last year," the team usually would get behind him. You know, if your own coach in the club would say, "Look, this is probably the last year, lads," everyone would get behind him. But I think in this circumstances, they just look shell shocked. I don't know that they've no identity anymore. They couldn't score with them all. I mean, even when they weren't playing good rugby, the one thing they've always had was getting close to the line. You were going, oh Jesus, well, at least they might score a try here off a line out maul, or they'll batter their way over because that's just the thickness that a Munster team normally had, and it was pure, just 100% out and out thickness that they scored a try. But Jesus, to see them at the weekend was shocking. You know, there was nothing, absolutely nothing.
But two things, Tom, which are kind of on Stephen Larkham. He's attack coach. The Munster attack hasn't really fired. Really fired. Has Stephen Larkham, the coach, still been living off Stephen Larkham, the player's reputation? His Brumbies team, when he was with the Brumbies previously, wasn't it?
Yeah.
They were a mauling side as well. They never really lit the world up with attack rugby. To me, the Munster, and in his defence, the Munster attack is built on dominating packs. And if they don't dominate packs and bully the pack that they're playing against, their attack falls asunder and there's no plan B. Munster are a mauling side, and Connacht mauled them equally as well the other night. They had the 6 penalties in a row and 5 advantages under the sticks, and they just bashed and went again. There's no attacking intent there. And I would point the finger at Larkham for that. But the other side is the head coach does call the shots as well.
This is the thing, and this is part of a bigger issue. Is like you're talking about there, is Stephen Larkham being held back by Johann Van Graan?
I think so.
Look at the bigger picture. Jerry Flannery, Felix Jones. You've spoken about it many times, James and Tom, about how good quality coaches they are, and they left. They turned down contract extensions because they were probably talking, not being listening, and went, you know, what's the point of staying here? I'm pissing against the wall. Do you know what I mean? Pissing against the wind, like.
Well, I've been following a lot there recently, and I do follow a lot of rugby bloggers on Twitter and whatnot. And a lot of the South African lads are saying about Van Graan that Van Graan got the jobs that he got at the Bulls in South Africa on account of his father being CEO of the Bulls. And he got a lot of jobs in technical roles rather than coaching roles. the language coming out of the South African thing is, and even when he went into the South African national side under Henrik Meyer, he was an analyst, not a coach. The rhetoric coming from South Africa is this man should never have gotten a head coach's job with a team like Munster. You know.
Well, it's not good enough to. It's not, and I know, like we discuss it here, or discussing Munster and on a Leinster. In the middle of Leinster, and people probably sometimes wonder why we give out so much about Munster, but it's not. It's the fact is it is a quarter of our Irish rugby.
Yeah,
it's a huge part of Irish rugby. It's a huge part of the history of Irish rugby for Munster, for that province to bloody perform, and there is no point. And I'm sure that nobody anywhere wants to see a team falling like out of grace completely and losing their identity and losing some of the fan base that they have because people are bored and are just falling away because it's not interesting to watch. And the first comments that came back, I mean, I looked at a lot of some of the Munster the fan base of it and what the comments were coming back. And it was the comments there was, Jesus, thank God we didn't play Leinster on Stephen's Day. I mean, everyone just said they would have got annihilated.
Yeah.
You know, Connacht have their own. They make the best of what they have. They bring on players to phenomenal. Keane Prendergast is just having, like, his mother's from Carlow.
Really?
From Carlow. But you would have been footballers with their Oak and I think two of them played in the club themselves, all big men. And his brother, I think, is out half or is playing out. He was the out half for Newbridge that won the cup, share the cup just before COVID. And like they're able to bring on those players. Your man, the guy from Skerries played with Munster.
Oh, Conor Oliver.
Little turning out, like he's turned into a little terrier.
Yeah,
like
Sammy Arnold.
There's so many players there that have been in other setups, but they make the most of it. They have a game plan. Yeah. It doesn't matter whether, if they lose, they go out fighting. They go out with the same style. They don't change the game necessarily to meet who they're playing. They just go out and play away.
I love watching them for that reason. They play to their strengths and they play to their limitations.
And Ulster are playing their own form of rugby. I think probably from being down here, we don't particularly get that interested in it, but they still have fantastic players coming through. Another lovely centre, another cool centre coming through there. Like
nice steady flow of players as well.
They have players there that are going to add in years to come. But like if they don't, and I blame the IRFU as well and the Munster, but the whole setup, they have to get their arse in gear, and maybe it's a director of rugby that they need in someone to control and get the right coaches and get the right setup happening, that the players enjoy it, that the fan base starts getting back. And it's not about winning every game. It's about going out and looking at them and watching them and saying, Jesus, that was a great game. They nearly won, but they played really, really well.
I think for Munster, I actually think, given some of the stuff that's happening in the background, with Rowntree signing his contract extension, they're talking about signing a centre from Saracens. What is it, Dominic Morris there at the moment? The speculation of him signing. I wouldn't be surprised. Those like new signings and contract extensions for coaches aren't just happening with the guys upstairs making those decisions. And that understanding, I wouldn't be surprised if there was a director of rugby or a new head coach identified and being engaged already that's given the thumbs up for Rowntree's a contract extension and for Dom Morris to be coming in. It's my own belief that.
Yeah, I can't understand how they gave Graham Rowntree in the contract extension if he's the forwards coach and they're not exactly performing well in the set piece. So now, am I being harsh? I'm blaming everybody down there. I'm not accepting, but
no, you have a point.
Unless somebody sees something they don't see, but I don't understand how anybody in that setup, if it's not working.
But look at their line out, look at their scrum, their set piece is working very well. They have the best line out in the URC, haven't they? I think they have the highest number of maul tries so far this season, and so I think from that perspective things are going well from what I see. But it's it's going to be an interesting time for Munster now over the next few weeks and months. Like Keith Wood last night, I think there's Keith Wood on off the ball where he said, what was it, turgid nonsense that they played, and he'd like Van Graan to go now. I probably think Keith Wood might have an agenda of his own there as well. I don't think he's ever been fond of Van Graan, which none of us have. No. But I think that Wood would be linked in with Munster traditionally, and a lot of the, how should I say, the professional, what do they call them down there, the professional players committee, which is all of the ex-players, and I suppose he has the inside track there as well from listening to the likes of Mick O'Driscoll and John Kelly and co. He probably knows stuff we don't, and they'd probably be happy to see Van Graan gone now and with Ian Costello taking over in an interim role to the end of the season. But it's going to be an interesting time for Munster now. And while you mentioned Bath, isn't there talk of RG Snyman and Jason Jenkins following Van Graan to Bath? Wow. It's looking possible that their contracts that they're going to be signing contracts with Bath. And word is that Damien Dialende is on the way out as well.
Yeah, so RG Snyman has played about half an hour of rugby for Munster, if even, and he's gone. Wow.
So there's going to be big changes in Munster but the good news is that Joey Carberry signed a contract extension. John Klein, who I think is the most underrated second row in Ireland, signed a contract extension. 4 other players yesterday as well. So see what happens.
Yeah, and Conor Murray got a 3-year IRFU contract as well. I don't think we discussed that. Bit surprised about that, to be honest.
Well, I tell you, I hate it actually admitting he was missed on at the and I think he wouldn't have allowed.
No.
I think he wouldn't have allowed what happened down on the line to happen.
No.
And I think Craig Casey, as great little passer and terrier that he is, I think he still needs to rope a little bit and become cute, because I think his direction, the way he directed play down there, and when we were baiting off the Connacht line, I think was poor. And I think Murray would have, we all say about him being slow or whatever, but I don't think it would have happened.
They had 5 advantages in that phase. In that sequence play, they had 5 advantages. Murray would have tried to kick through. He would have let it out to the backs or something like that. Definitely, 100% agree with you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing is that they did in that phase of plays, they were trying to get another yellow card for Ulster. Now, I have a grievance to the referee on the game. I thought he had a shocking game, but I'm not going to get into that on this.
Yeah, a couple of dodgy calls, all right, but
on a side note, I'm actually reading Keith Earle's book at the moment. Brilliant book. I'd recommend just to read it.
He talks about coaches in it as well.
I've just started myself.
Brilliant book.
Yeah.
You talk about the old dog for the hard road. By God, he had a hard road before he came an old dog.
Sure did.
There was actually a thing on a program on TG Car, if anybody's listening, and they can go onto the TG Car player and look up 25 years of AIL. That was a really, really good program and great insight into clubs and different players from everyone from Corinthians to young Munsters to right across the board, Lansdowne, you name it. They're all there. It was really, really interesting. Really, really interesting program. And it's still up on the TG Car player if anyone's interested in it.
Absolutely. So lads, there's no Leinster League this weekend. Anything else happening or
nothing else happened. We cleaned the car park. We cleaned the car park in the rugby club over Christmas. It's a pristine order out there.
That's Johann.
Oh, well, actually, James, and another thing, our boiler for the hot water when Kabut poor old Justin was trying to figure it out last night.
As I said before, Tom, it's hard to get a good club.
We are delighted. I think on one end of it, we might be delighted about not having the game, because I think we can try and patch it up for the weekend so the lads will actually have a shower. But I know, and actually, I think you're right about Leinster. Munster played. Munster development, kind of a development side, played the Irish 20s last week. And I'd say you're probably right. It could be a Leinster development playing the 20s. They're preparing for the Six Nations.
Yeah.
So I'd say there's probably a young Leinster side going to play them.
Good stuff. Well, opportunities for young lads.
I actually see Nicky Popplewell's young lad is Ben Popplewell, isn't he? He's on being touted to go to Connacht as well.
Yeah.
As well?
Yeah.
Well,
Jesus. That's Charlie Ward's gone over there. He'll be gone there.
Yeah.
Be a lot of Southeast lads over there.
Huh?
Be a few Southeast lads over there.
Jeez, there is. Well, there's a lot of there's quite a lot of Leinster lads over
That's
there.
it, yeah.
Sent a few over the years, all right. Lads, we'll probably wrap it up there. It's good to catch up with you after the Christmas, and yeah, it's a pity that the matches are all called off this weekend, but sure, such is life, and with COVID and everything at the moment, yeah. But sure, we'll see. We'll flick through and see is there anything decent on the telly this weekend to watch somewhere.
Some top 14 rugby. And CJ Johann Van Graan ripping it up over there, and
Claremont.
That's it.
Yeah, absolutely, lads. Pleasure talking to you. Catch up with us all again next week.
Absolutely. Yeah, and hopefully we may have rugby.
Yeah, exactly.
And best of luck to all the kids anyway.
Yep.
Hopefully we'll get to watch a bit of rugby this weekend. So
absolutely.